The committee invited members of the Governing Council, led by the chairman, the management and chairman of ASU and NASU, led by the rector, and the Commissioner for Higher Education. Testimonies. The Governing Council. The Governing Council was represented by Pastor Paul Adengu, chairman, Hussein Fukuma Esquire, member, Chief Adibo senior member, Professor Mary Oliri Idema, member, Rega Ochuku, member, Lawal Adamu, MBCC representative, Patricia Ojere, member, and the acting registrar, Idoge Christiana, Mrs. The chairman testified on behalf of the council. He alleged persistent breaches of the law establishing the Polytechnic and other instance rules by the rector. That this has resulted into serious crisis between the council and the management. That the crisis wouldn't have degenerated to this level of animosity between the council and the rector if the rector was a bit receptive. He averred that the council could not hold its inaugural meeting after the inauguration on the 10th of May 2024 for a long time because the rector deliberately frustrated every effort to hold the meeting. However, that after about 3 weeks, the inaugural meeting was eventually called, and at the meeting, the rector introduced members of his management team to the council, and the matter of security in the school was also discussed. Subsequently, at other meetings of the council, the rector submitted some books and records of activities of the Polytechnic to the council. But the first thing the council observed was the books. The first thing the council observed from the books was the non-payment of the ad hoc staff allowances for 7 months. And that when the council sought to know why these persons were being owed, the rector's explanation was that the Polytechnic has no money to pay. Consequently, the council then set up a committee to investigate the matter. But the committee, in their report, among other things, discovered that the rector, within the period of 4 months, when there was no governing council, employed 214 additional ad hoc staff, bringing the total to 413 ad hoc staff. Among the ad hoc staff was a core member who was serving in another establishment, as well as others that were not coming to work, ghost workers. But the council, irrespective, made arrangements and paid the staff 3 months out of the 7 months. He averred that the committee, in their report, also noted that the previous governing council had instructed that 19 staff, some diseased, some absconded, and who were no longer staff of the school, should be removed from the payroll. Yet, the rector did not comply with this directive, and the salaries of these 19 persons were still being processed and paid to unknown persons till date. The chairman averred that premised on the discovery, the council yet again set up another committee to investigate the perceived financial impropriety by the rector and his team, but that the rector vehemently opposed the investigation. Now, following the development, the registrar and the bursar were suspended to allow for an unbiased and unfettered investigation, but the rector warned and threatened committee members not to go on with the investigation as the council was becoming overreaching. He averred that again, barely 1 month into the financial investigation of the rector, another worrisome issue was brought to the council's attention: the issue of certificate racketeering, which was first aired on Arise Television. He said the council met and ordered for an investigation into the allegation. Consequently, another committee was set up to conduct the investigation with the functioning permanent secretary, Ministry of Higher Education, and the deputy director as members of the committee, among other members of council and academic board. That the committee, after conducting a thorough investigation, discovered the allegation to be true. Consequently, the registrar of the Polytechnic, Dr. Judo Kucha, and one Mr. Charles Ndoka, a principal executive officer in the Department of Library and Information Science of the Polytechnic were suspended from work as a result of their complicity in the certificate racketeering. He further stated that the registrar of the Polytechnic, Dr. Judo Kota, told him in confidence that Mr. Charles Luka confessed to him of his involvement in the certificate racketeering. That, however, the management without directive of council issued a public notice that there is no certificate racketeering in the school. But the story is not true. He avowed that the rector, in his usual disregard for the law and the authority of the council, spent 42 million naira in excess for accreditation of the polytechnic programs without authorization by the council. That the council approved 69 million naira for the exercise, yet the rector went ahead to spend additional 42 million naira without the knowledge or approval of the council, which act earned him a query. The chairman considered that the rector was consequently queried for spending the school money without approval. The chairman advised that following the query, the rector then locked up the council chamber, denying council members access, and the council left with no other option, resorted to using the Professor T.K. Dozier's secretary and server for their meetings. Following the development, the council then suspended the rector from office and wrote to the visitor through the Commissioner for Higher Education, informing him of the rector's suspension. The chairman contended that rather than forward the council's letter to the visitor as provided for in section 31.4, in section 34 sub 1 of the law establishing the Polytechnic, the Honorable Commissioner usurped the powers of the visitor and instead wrote back to the council that it lacked the powers to suspend the rector and consequently reinstated him. The chairman again avowed that prior to the suspension, the rector withdrew accumulated sum of 98 million naira without authorization or approval by council from the Nigeria Polytechnic Games NIPOGA account with First Bank and Premium Trust Bank. He posited that the NIPOGA account is a school account where money is paid by students for the sole purpose of hosting NIPOGA by the Polytechnic are kept to the city. He also advised that the council discovered that the Polytechnic was operating 39 different accounts prior to their assumption of office. That the council wrote it down to 9, but later discovered another illegal and unapproved 6 accounts operated by the rector and the management. Another infraction was the payment of sum of 90 million naira and additional 14 million naira into the registrar's personal account, out of 129 million naira meant for the purchase of official vehicles for principal officers of the school, contrary to the extant financial regulatory laws of Delta State. He posited that although the former council gave the approval, the vehicles were never purchased. That the former bursar of the school informed him that the approval for the purchase of official vehicles for principal officers was given in 2023, and the approved amount which has been used was 123 million naira. The chairman also alleged that the rector spent the sum of 15 million naira for the service and repair of solar lights without approval by the council and contrary to the MOU signed by the Polytechnic and the solar company. The rector was also alleged to have spent the sum of 3,900,000 naira as balance payment for principal officers and directors, which had been fully paid for in 2023. Again, that the rector released the sum of 6 million naira to the contractor, Chulico Best Ventures, for the renovation of the Polytechnic Event Center, even when no work was commenced on the site till date. The chairman contended that the rector, without authorization, also auctioned some properties, irons and metal scraps, of the Polytechnic without the knowledge and approval of the government council. A clear breach of the Delta State government auctioneering law and sections 8 and 9 of the law establishing the Polytechnic. And the monies realized from the the sales were not adequately accounted for. He also advised that the rector was used to being late to council meetings, talking down on the council chairman and members, and often staging angry walkouts from meetings. That the rector also regularly treats council resolutions with disrespect and disregard, as he oftentimes refuses to implement council decisions, especially with particular reference to the suspension of the registrar and boss. The council chairman posited that members of the council only discovered that the council chamber was locked when they resumed for council meeting at the Polytechnic, and that after making inquiries as to why the council chamber was locked, they discovered that the rector gave a directive that the council chamber be locked. Consequently, they decided to move the meeting in Asaba. He concluded by positing that the rector, as a serial offender, was currently paying salaries to unavailable staff of the Polytechnic. He stated that the registrar, who is currently on suspension, had gone ahead to sue the Polytechnic in the National Industrial Court, Asaba Division, to challenge the suspension. That without council approval, the rector engaged 2 lawyers to defend the council. The rector, to defend the council, the rector, and the Polytechnic. And that when the council became aware of the unauthorized legal representation, the council then engaged the Senior Advocate of Nigeria to defend the council and the Polytechnic, but that the rector has refused to pay the SAN engaged by the council. He submitted 20 documents with the committee admitted in evidence and marked as Exhibit A1 to A20. The rector, Professor Achuenu, was accompanied by his management team and union leaders. Members of the management team who accompanied the rector include the Deputy Rector, Dr. Mrs. Joy Alpo, the Bossa, Mr. Awabige Lawrence, the librarian, Anyobodu Chukudi, and admission officer Mwokoro Franka. Others are the ASU chairman, Comrade Dr. Michael Ogana, and Comrade Ariewumi A. Andrew, Chairman, National Chairman, Joint Unions of Delta State Schools Polytechnic. The rector advised that soon after his appointment on 27th July 2021, he went to work almost immediately with high expectations. And because he met lots of the academic programs unaccredited, he took accreditation of these programs as a priority. And that so far, over 70 programs have been accredited. He advised that prior to his resumption as rector of the Polytechnic, the state of insecurity in and around the immediate vicinity of the Polytechnic was alarming. But following his intervention and ingenuity, they have been able to arrest the situation, and the Polytechnic is safe for all and sundry. Confidence has been restored, and both students and staff of the Polytechnic can now go about their businesses without fear. He posited that when he came in as a rector, electricity supply was electric in the Polytechnic, and it was particularly difficult for students to move around at night for fear of being harmed because of poor vision at night. Consequently, he secured and installed intermediate transformers. And that now, electricity supply in the Polytechnic has improved considerably, and the campus is well illuminated at night. That staff are now enjoying the luxury of working in a relatively conducive environment, and students can go about their businesses even at night without the fear of being molested. He admitted that he did not comply with the suspension order of the council on him because the suspension did not follow due process. He argued that the council did not comply with the procedure in section 34 sub 1 of the law establishing Polytechnic in the process leading to his suspension. And consequent upon a letter from the Honorable Commissioner for Higher Education reinstating him, he continued his work. He advised that it is not true that he was paying salaries to unknown or ghost workers, that every person in the payroll of the Polytechnic is either a permanent or ad hoc staff, and they all come to work. He said that the Polytechnic currently has a staff strength of 1,310, comprising 735 permanent staff and 555 ad hoc staff. And the employment of all these personnel was done following approvals from the previous council. The rector advised that the wage bill of the Polytechnic for the 555 ad hoc staff is 22 million naira, while that of 735 permanent staff stands at 54 million naira, making it a total of 76 million naira. He contended that he complied with the directive of the former governing council to the effect that the names of the 19 staff who were either deceased or had absconded be removed from the payroll. That the names were later replaced on the approval of the governor and with the consent of the former governing council's chairman and the Honorable Commissioner for Higher Education. Therefore, the allegation that he was still paying salaries to 19 staff, even after the council had directed otherwise, is not correct. He advised that whereas it is true that money was withdrawn from the NIPOGA account, it was not diverted or misappropriated as alleged. He emphasized that the money was used for the funding for sponsoring the Polytechnic contingents to the NIPOGA that was hosted by the Federal Polytechnic Prof, the same purpose for which the money was contributed by the students at the mission. He also stated that part of the money was used to maintain the school sports arena and payment of ad hoc staff. He contended that the governing council has continually and persistently frustrated his efforts at advancing the fortunes of the Polytechnic, and in their efforts to continue to undermine his good work in the Polytechnic, set up a 9-man audit staff verification committee whose membership was heavily skewed in favor of the council chairman's community, Bruno, as the chairman has 4 persons from Bruno and the chairman's niece as members. And while the verification exercise was still ongoing, and not waiting for its report, the chairman personally queried him, the registrar, and the bursar against laid down procedures. Nevertheless, that they all responded to the queries attaching the governor's approval authorizing the employment. He contended that the discipline of a principal officer of the institution must and should follow laid down procedures and not the unilateral decision of the council chairman. He alleged that contrary to the precedent and the enabling law establishing the Polytechnic, the chairman goes to work every day as though he was on a full-time appointment, and as such, he keeps interfering with the administration of the Polytechnic, ordering staff around and giving directives as though he were the chief executive to accounting officer of the institution. He also stated that the chairman, in fact, sometimes shout at him and push him down before the staff of the Polytechnic and council members. He posited that as soon as the issue of certificate racketeering came to his knowledge, he met with his management team the next day, being Saturday, to discuss the matter, and discovered that there was really no case as such. That the council, to everybody's surprise, summoned a meeting where the same issue was discussed. And in the meeting, the registrar, Dr. Jude Official, and Mr. Charles, principal executive officer in the Library and Information Science Department of the Polytechnic, were suspended without following procedure. The same day, an acting registrar was appointed by the council. The registrar advised that the allegation of paying for collecting salaries of the said 19 staff, even after the former council had directed that their names should be removed from payroll, following the staff verification exercise that revealed that the 19 staff were still being paid, is not true. That as soon as the directive was given, the Polytechnic stopped paying the 19 staff and their names were subsequently removed. He admitted that indeed some properties belonging to the Polytechnic were auctioned, but with the approval of the former council. He listed the auctioned properties as woods and irons, excluding vegetables. He posited that whereas it is true that the Polytechnic spent extra 42 million naira in excess of the 62 million naira approved by the council for the accreditation exercise, it was done on the understanding that the council would give a retroactive approval, having agreed same at the council meeting where the 62 million naira was approved. He denied ever locking council members out from the council chamber, but admitted that he indeed directed the Polytechnic Secretary to lock the council chamber when he learned the council had taken their meeting to the Professor Chike Secretary in Asaba. He also admitted that he ordered the transfer of staff attached to the council chamber because they ordinarily shouldn't be working there in the first place. He stated that the Polytechnic has no proprietary right to the NIPOGA account. That NIPOGA has two accounts told. Account 1 operated by the National Executive Council of NIPOGA and account 2 operated by the Polytechnic, which is to be operated by the rector and the director of sports. But to ensure transparency, he allowed the bursar and the director of sports to be signatories to the account, while he only confirms text. He stated that account 2 is funded by the students through payments of 10,000 naira by new students, while ND2 students pay 6,000 naira, mainly for the hosting of the NIPOGA. That non-students also donated to the account. He contended that though the initial hosting rights for the games was taken away from the Polytechnic and handed over to the Federal Polytechnic offer, the hosting rights have been restored, and the Polytechnic will be hosting the next edition in 2026. On the NIPOGA withdrawal allegation, the rector denied the allegation of misappropriation of the fund. He stated that it is not true that he diverted money from the NIPOGA account. He emphasized that the money was expended on similar exercises for which it was contributed. That is, the NIPOGA to the Federal Polytechnic offer and maintenance of the school sports arena. The rector admitted that prior to the inauguration of this current council, the Polytechnic operated numerous accounts up to 34. That the current council, in its wisdom, merged the accounts and reduced it to 9. He admitted withdrawing the sum of 40 million naira from the NIPOGA account for purposes of funding the accreditation exercise in the Polytechnic, but that the withdrawal was done with the approval of the Honorable Commissioner for Higher Education. He also admitted that he got approval to the tune of 169 million naira from the former council to purchase vehicles for some principal officers of the Polytechnic. He denied ever paying any part of the money into the registrar's private account. He alleged that the former chairman was paid 75 million naira in installments for the purchase of his official vehicle, leaving only 60 million naira, which was barely enough to purchase 3 fairly used vehicles. He maintained that there is no case of certificate racketeering in the Polytechnic. Rather, it was the handwork of a reputed journalist whose intention is to denigrate the writing profile of the Polytechnic, and that what took place was forgery. That there is a police report that exonerated the Polytechnic, but Mr. Achuenu was found forgery. He submitted 41 documents, which the committee admitted in evidence and marked as exhibits B1 to B41. Deputy Rector. The Deputy Rector, Dr. Mrs. Herrera Joy Amho, was asked to provide clarity on the matter of the expenditure of 42,800,000 naira in excess of approved 69 million for the accreditation exercise made by the Director. In her response, the Deputy Director contended that the Council did as alluded by the rector. She stated that the council directed that the rector should operate within the council's approval for the accreditation exercise, and that if there is need to make any extra expenditure, the rector should call the chairman of the council on phone for approval. On the issue of certificate, she maintained that she was both a member of the council's committee and the interministerial committee that investigated the allegation, and that while the council's committee insisted that there was indeed a case of certificate, even though her opinion was in the contrary, the interministerial committee held that there was no case of certificate, rather a case of certificate forgery was established. Her explanation is that if we take the involvement of the whole apparatus of the institution, that is, the rector, the registrar, and top principal officers of the school, for there to establish the case of certificate racketeering. But in this case, just an individual who is not the principal staff of the Polytechnic was identified to be involved in the scam, which makes it certificate forgery. She denied certificate racketeering as making an illegal thing look legal by a group of persons who have the authority to do that thing. And since those who have authority in the Polytechnic were not involved in the matter, it couldn't be called certificate racketeering. Rather, it should be addressed as the right name, which is certificate forgery. However, after the circumstances surrounding the certificate issue in the name of the Polytechnic was discussed in detail, and questions put to her by the committee, she agreed that what happened was actually certificate racketeering. The bossa, our media Lawrence, in his own testimony on the issue of excess expenditure of 42,800,000 naira on the accreditation exercise, corroborated the rector's position on the matter to the extent that the rector was asked by the council to go ahead and spend and later bring the excess bill for the council approval. The bossa further testified before the committee that apart from the expenditure of sponsoring the Polytechnic contingent to Nipoga hosted by the Federal Polytechnic Program, which money was taken from the Nipoga account, the Polytechnic has also had need in the past to draw money from the same account for the purposes of facilitating the accreditation exercise, maintenance of the school sports arena, hotels of sports, equipment and payment of allowances to the ad hoc staff. He stated that currently the Nipoga account has a balance of about 28 million naira from the initial 200 million naira in the account contributed by about 11,000 students from the Polytechnic before the withdrawal. He further contended the money meant for the salaries of the 19 staff whose names the former council directed to be removed from payroll of the school was used to make up for the shortfalls in the management of the Polytechnic, such as payment of incremental steps and promotions, etc. He stated that in its effort to run the Polytechnic to the inadequate subvention to the school, the 19 names were zeroed and were no longer paid, even though their names still appeared in the payroll. Chairman Achuenu. The union was represented by Chairman Comrade Dr. Michael, who testified on behalf of the union. He said that the rector, since assumption of office, has worked so hard to position the Polytechnic as a foremost educational institution. But that while the rector was working so hard, the government council was busy slowing the wheel of progress down. He corroborated the rector's avowals on the accreditation of over 70 programs in the Polytechnic since assumption of office as rector, and his efforts at improving power situation in the Polytechnic. He opined that the general condition of work in the Polytechnic has improved considerably since the arrival of the rector. He concluded by praying the committee to broker a truce between the council and the rector so as to ensure that the progress witnessed in the Polytechnic since the rector assumed office can be sustained. Chairman Nasu to Chairman Joint Unions of Delta State owned The Joint Union Chairman, Comrade Achuenu A. Andrew, in his testimony before the committee, posited that his union was only interested in peace, and that whatever will entrench lasting peace in the Polytechnic is their wish. He maintained that they have engaged the council chairman of the union in the past to discuss the lingering crisis between the council and the rector and how to end it. And in their assessment, the council chairman appears to be disposed to peace and working cordially with the rector. Commissioner for Higher Education. The commissioner was invited by the committee to substantiate the letter he wrote to the council notifying the position of the rector. He admitted that he wrote the letter based on his understanding of the law that established the Polytechnic. He was asked by the committee to read sections 34, 17.1, 4, 18.2, 8, and 9 of the law. After reading the subsections and questions put to him by members of the committee, he admitted that the position he canvassed in his letter to the council was wrong. That indeed, the council, being the employer, can suspend its employee, the rector, and write the visitor through his office. And that in the hierarchy of the Polytechnic, the chairman of the council ranks next to the visitor before the rector. He further stated that when he received the letter suspending the rector from the council, he did a memo to the governor as prescribed by law, but did not wait for the governor's response before writing to reinstate the rector. He also stated that from his observation, the rector does not have good management skills. He further stated that from his observation, the chairman wants everything to be done properly. He thanked the committee for the opportunity, apologized, and stated that he now knows the law better. Finally, the committee, after thorough investigation and careful perusal of documents tendered before the committee, found that the sum of 69 million naira was approved by the council for the accreditation exercise and not 62 million naira claimed by the rector, and that the rector spent the sum of 42,800,000 naira in excess of 69 million naira approved by the council. This committee condemns the recklessness of the rector as his action runs contrary to the provision of the law establishing the Polytechnic. Sections 8 and 9 of the law empower the governing council to be in charge of the general control and superintendence of the policy, finance, and property of the Polytechnic. Therefore, any expenditure above 1.5 million naira by the rector must first be approved by the council. Any action by any person, including the rector, that contravenes the law is illegal and that is null and void. But the rector, without approval by council, authorized the withdrawal of money from the NIPOGA account. In his evidence, the rector admitted the withdrawal from the account, but added that the money was used for the Polytechnic contingent during the NIPOGA, which was hosted by the Federal Polytechnic Sector. The bossa further admitted that monies were withdrawn from the account for other purposes such as the maintenance of the school sports arena and payment of allowances to ad hoc staff, etc. Again, the committee noted that this withdrawal and spending was done without the knowledge and approval of the council, another breach of the provision of sections 8 and 9 of the law establishing the Polytechnic. That contrary to the testimony of the rector, the NIPOGA account is the Polytechnic account, operated by the boss and director of sports in line with the directive of the rector. The account was initially opened at First Bank PLC in December 2023, and following council's directive, a new NIPOGA account was opened in Fremont Trust Bank in September 2024. The sum of 47,304,430 naira was transferred from NIPOGA account in First Bank to the new NIPOGA account in Fremont Trust Bank. The monies withdrawn from the NIPOGA account was not only without authorization but was also misappropriated committee, during investigation, noted that the money was paid by the students for the purpose of hosting the new program in the Delta State Polytechnic in 2024. Therefore, any expenditure charged to the account must only be for the purpose of hosting the program in the process. Contrary to the objective of opening the account, the rector in evidence told the committee that 40 million naira was borrowed from the account to finance part of the accreditation exercise, pay ad hoc staff, the allowances, etc. Premise of the foregoing, the committee can safely conclude that the rector was appropriated in the program fund. Details of some withdrawal from the unauthorized fixed deposits in the Nipoga account are as follows. Mr. Speaker, I crave your indulgence to allow me to continue from the page 19 plus 5.5 as the details are explicitly stated there and members have copies of those details.
You can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That the 40 million naira borrowed from the Nipoga account got approval from the council. The council chairman during cross-examination admitted that indeed the council approved the withdrawal of the money to finance the accreditation exercise. He however added that the rector did not get council approval for further withdrawals made on the Nipoga account. That the total inflow in the Nipoga account from the beginning to date is 328,700,000 naira by the BD, and that so far the Polytechnic has spent 308,395,903 naira 28 kobo from the account, leaving a balance of 20,323,708 naira 71 kobo, inclusive of the fixed deposit. But the bossa lied to the committee when he testified that the Nipoga account has a balance of 28 million naira left in the account. The committee discovered during investigation and on examination of the BD that the account has a balance of 323,780 naira 71 kobo and the fixed deposit of 20 million naira, making it a total of 20,323,780 naira 71 kobo. But the bossa also lied about the total inflow into the Nipoga account. In his evidence before the committee, he testified that the total inflow since the inception of the account was 200 million. However, the committee during investigation and on examination of its BD discovered that the account has witnessed an inflow of 328,719,000 naira since inception, which the bossa confirmed. That besides not being involved and being in the know on how the Nipoga account was managed, the government council was not aware that the rector and the bossa had on several occasions placed money into fixed deposits from the Nipoga account. The monies in the Nipoga account were misappropriated by the director in connivance with the bossa and the suspended register. But the rector was queried by the council following the excess expenditure of 42,800,000 naira for the accreditation exercise without approval by the council, an infraction of the financial regulations of the Polytechnic by Exhibit A4. A consequence upon the report of allegation of certificate racketeering, the council constituted a 7-man joint committee of the council and the Achuenu board. In their report, the committee confirmed the involvement of Mr. Emeka, a principal executive officer in the Department of Library and Information Science in the SAG, and consequently recommended his arraignment before a staff disciplinary panel, while he remained suspended without pay by Exhibit A6 report of the Joint Council to the Academic Board Investigative Committee. That indeed, one officer of the Polytechnic was indicted by the Council for his involvement in the secretarial saga, Mr. Charles, who was later charged to court by the police, remanded, and has been granted bail. That in the same report, Dr. Jude Okocha, the registrar, was also indicted for not showing capacity to handle the delicate office of the registrar, as he could not account for mails sent to his office. Indeed, it was established that a mail concerning the secretarial was received in the office of the registrar, and it was entered into the incoming notebook in the registrar's office. Although the committee did not make any recommendation as to the punitive measure on the registrar, the council, after consideration of the report, placed the registrar under suspension. That the rector indeed obtained approval for the replacement of the purportedly disengaged staff by the